Call the meeting to order, and I'll ask Councillor Siemens for the opening.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Recently, the Steinbach Mennonite Church celebrated their 75th anniversary, and a few stories came out, and here's one of my favorite stories that I was able to tell at the anniversary. And it's about the Mennonite Treasury of Recipes cookbook. In 1960, the census says that Steinbach had 3,751 people. That same year, the Canadian Mennonite Conference was held in Steinbach from July 1st to July 6th. A tent was put up in Steinbach that held approximately 3,000 people. It was located where the Centennial Arena stands today. As part of the hosting, they needed places to stay as well as to be fed. I can't imagine where they were all hosted for night. Besides the Steinbach Mennonite and Berchthaler churches in Steinbach, Niverville, Grunthal, Arnaud, and St. Elizabeth Mennonite churches and their women's groups all helped in the food preparations. During planning and making food, one of the leaders, Mrs. Katie Warkentine, told everyone to keep the recipes in case they would like to host this type of event again. At first, the plan was to print the recipes on sheet paper and then send them out to all the women from the other churches who would request them. Then they thought, well, why not include with those recipes some favorite Mennonite dishes, as they were different in different parts of Canada. Another leader, Mrs. Anna Rosenfeld, then took that paperwork after the conference and went to see her brother, Mr. Eugene Dirksen from Dirksen Printers. And she wanted to print all this sheet paper, about 500 copies in total, so they could send it out to all the requested. You got to remember, though, this is before photocopiers and also computers, and if you remember the name, it was also before Gestetners. Eugene Dirksen encouraged his sister, Anna Rosenfeld, to make a cookbook. He claimed he had always wanted to print one. He then told his sister that 300 copies or 500 copies wasn't enough, that they would print 3,000 copies, they would print it interest-free, and not to worry about payment. He said it wouldn't matter if it took him 5 years to pay it back. And he says, go ahead, collect the material and put it together. I had the opportunity, because it was printed and available, I reviewed the minutes from the next meeting after that one, where Anna Rosenfeld went back to the ladies group. And the ladies wondered two things. They wondered how and who would ever purchase 3,000 cookbooks, and how would they ever pay Dirksens the $3,750 that were a requirement for those books to be printed. But they decided that faith would work, and they went ahead with it. But now the work really began. They sent letters to request recipes from congregations across Canada and the U.S. Then they sorted and translated. They had to type it, and the proofreading, and all the other decisions come with producing a cookbook. Many recipes came in listing a pinch of this or that, or a handful of flour, and then the famous statement, mixed to the right consistency. What does that mean? So some recipes had to be tested to make sure that they worked as they translated everything to the measurements like teaspoons, tablespoons, and cups. It took 14 months of collecting, testing, and writing and proofreading, all to get ready for printing. By November 1961, it was handed over to Dirksen Printers for printing. The first printing of the Mennonite Treasury of Recipes went on sale for Christmas, 1961. By the middle of February 1962, 3 months later, the debt had been paid in full. And on February 22nd, they deposited their first earnings. $108.09 went into the missions account. The Ebenetzer Verein, or the women's group, paid 25-cent royalty to other women's groups who had sold books as well. The first printing sold out in early spring, and a second printing went into the press May 2nd, 1962. The first 5 years, the ladies group would get together monthly to wrap and mail out the cookbooks. Each year, the profits from the book went into the missions account and was used to buy supplies to make blankets and other items to be shipped out to the mission fields. When book sales began to slow down after about 5 years, Dirksen Printers offered to take over the sale of that book, as their advertising reached way beyond the Mennonite circles. In return, they agreed to pay royalties to the Steinbach Mennonite Church Ladies Group, or 25 cents for every book sold. Up until the late 70s, Dirksons would print 3,000 copies each and every year. After that, and to this day, they print about 3,000 copies every couple of years. To date, over 96,000 copies have been printed. Today, Steinbach Mennonite Church still gets approximately $250 per year in royalties. And to date, over $55,000 has been raised by the sale of the cookbook, with the majority of money going to missions. Now, according to Dr. Royden Lowen, who is our local Mennonite professor, it is said he claims that it was one of the top 3 best-selling Mennonite literature books of all time, surpassing a book like Martyr's Mirror. But it was recently passed by 2 other bestsellers of Mennonite books, Miriam Taves' An Uncomplicated Kindness, and the other cookbook now famous, Mennonite Girls Can Cook. If you Google on eBay, or look on eBay, you can buy an original copy of the Mennonite Treasury Cookbook for $154. So the next time you see or you find somebody using a well-worn Mennonite Treasury of recipes, now you have an understanding of its history and what it did for the Steinbach Mennonite Church.
Thank you, Councillor Siemens. I also got a copy of that cookbook, I think, as a wedding present. Okay, we'll go to the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Councillor Funk, Councillor Fair. Any additions or deletions? All in favor? Carried. And we'll go to the minutes of November 2nd on page 1. Are there any additions or deletions? Seeing none, call for the question.
We need a motion.
I need a motion. Yes, thank you. Councillor Swagstra, Councillor Funk. Now I'll call for the question. All those in favor, thank you. Carried. Now we'll go to the regular council meeting of November 2nd. That was the organizational one we did. This one is on page 4. And is there any changes in the minutes? Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Fair, Councillor Swagstra. All those in favor? Carried. We'll go to number 6. There's no business arising from the minutes. Number 7, there is no public hearing scheduled for tonight. Number 8, delegation. There is no delegation this evening. We'll go to number 9, reports and recommendations of the city manager. Page 7. 3rd Street parking report. Mr. Workington?
Madam Deputy Mayor and members of council, this report is a follow-up to a letter that council received and read at a council meeting on October 5th, 2017 from Mr. Gordon Giesbrecht. Just to recap, he indicated a couple of concerns with respect to recently moving to Steinbach and his fear that he would not be able to retrieve his mail at his community mailbox not far from his house. The particular location that his mailbox is at the corner of 3rd Street and Reimer Avenue in Steinbach. Just for council's information, I have attached a copy of the agreement signed between the City of Steinbach and Canada Post Corporation in early 2004. This agreement and related schedules, it does cover the general operating conditions and requirements of the community mailboxes throughout Steinbach. This also includes a requirement for representatives of Canada Post to clear snow from the immediate area around the mailboxes so that users such as Mr. Giesbrecht can retrieve their mail. Generally, all the sites are designed with use by pedestrians in mind, and it does also provide that the snow from the sites immediately adjacent to the sidewalks are cleared by, like I said, Canada Post representatives from time to time, so that people can get their mail from the boxes. With the overall maintenance agreement that is in place and the fact that Canada Post is operating as a utility within the city's right-of-way, if there are any concerns of individuals with respect to these mailboxes, it is suggested that individuals direct their concerns directly to Canada Post, generally the local office. However, based on the request or the concerns of Mr. Giesbrecht, the administration is not recommending that there be any change to the parking in front of the mailboxes, as there appears to be adequate parking to access the mailbox site.
Thank you. Okay, Council, we have the legal agreement here for Canada Post in the city of Steinbach. What would you like to do? Councillor Funk?
Yes, thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. If we look on page 9, section C, it talks about the Canada Post shall provide at its own expense snow clearing for the areas adjacent to the community mailbox to provide access thereto in winter for public, provided, however, no snow shall be placed on a travel portion of the roadway or sidewalk by Canada Post or its contractor. Now, would that work in this case? I know the snow's cleared on the sidewalks, but what about in front on the street, so that gives some street access to those with limited mobility?
Generally, if there are specific concerns or issues with respect to accessing a mailbox site, with snow windrows, for example, generally, if we get contacted at in any administration location in Steinbach, administration will recommend to the individual to contact Canada Post directly, and they then take care of any of those service requests.
Anything else? Councillor Swykstra?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. So just to be clear, if there is, because a scenario that sometimes comes up is where the snow clearing takes place, it will always take place on one side of the mailbox, which is the side where you have the actual mailboxes. But sometimes people may want to access it from the street, because if they're driving along and they stop, they want to pick it up, and if it's a bit of a walk a ways around. So, Mr. Workington, you're saying then that there are times where Canada Post will clear more than the minimum in terms of that open there, that perhaps they would clear the windrows, clear the windrow, so that way people can access it directly, particularly if people directly contact the local office?
My understanding is that does happen from time to time.
Okay.
And yes, our recommendation would be that the individuals contact the local Canada Post Office directly for those requests.
Okay.
Councillor Fair?
Yes, Madam Deputy Mayor. I think that this is probably a contract that the Canada Post is not new to this. I'm sure that they have contracts like this in every center, such as ours, across the country. And so unless, I don't see that it's a big issue, and I agree that it's probably best to leave it with them to deal with it. We want to make it as good as we can for our citizens, but I think this is not in our hands to deal with. So.
All right. So is council satisfied if a response is given stating that what the agreement is with Canada Post and our jurisdiction on that matter, as well as that we're sensitive to people accessing their mail in a reasonable fashion? You're okay with that? All right, thanks. Okay, we'll go to accounts payable at the back of the book. Do I have a motion? Councillor Funk, Councillor Siemens.
Nothing to say, just the bills have to be paid.
Yes, they do. Okay, call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Then we'll go to financial statements, also at the back of the book, ending October 31st.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Councillor Siemens, Councillor Fair. Any questions, comments? Okay, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to 10C, Board of Revision, page 16. This is board that reviews assessment and appeals. And there is, I believe, a motion on page 19. Do you have a motion? Councillor Swagstra?
I'll move that we accept.
Councillor Siemens, second. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. This is the Board of Revision. It convenes every year to review concerns regarding property assessment in terms of the value and it impacts taxes. These are a group of people that are appointed every year to review this, and it looks like they had a busy night in terms of a number of properties that they had to evaluate their assessment, and some were changed and some were left at the same. But it's pretty straightforward that at this point we accept the recommendation.
Thank you. Anything to add? Okay, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And we'll go to 10D, Local Improvement, 2018-01 Fire Rescue Truck. Mr. Workington, can you introduce that, please?
Yes, for members of council, this item and the next one, number 10E, there are two matters being put before council with respect to some anticipated local improvement projects for the 2018 fiscal year of the city. What management is asking or requesting of council is a resolution to initiate the local improvements. This first one being for the proposed purchase of a fire department rescue truck under local improvement plan 2018-01. And with your permission, I'll just briefly explain the next one. The second local improvement plan that is being proposed is 208-02, and that is for the reconstruction of a portion of McKenzie Avenue, which would be immediately west of Brant Street, and also requesting a resolution from council to initiate that local improvement file.
Thank you. Okay, we'll start with the fire department rescue truck. Councillor Funk, motion to approve. Seconded by Councillor Swagstra. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. This is a local improvement to purchase a new fire truck. I believe we learned this weekend it's replacing a 20-year-old one that needs to be removed from the force. And we heard also about the high level of calls and the great level of service that our firefighters do provide. And they can only continue to provide this with the levels of calls they're getting and the quality of service they do give is as long as we give them good equipment. So I think this is in order that we should be approving this and moving forward, purchasing the truck and keeping our fleet current.
Thank you. Nothing further?
He said it all.
Okay. Councillor Fair.
Yes, Madam Deputy Mayor. I just want to comment and then I have a question as well. I think that we pride ourselves in our fire department. It's a volunteer fire department, and we have many very, very faithful and dedicated people that protect our city and the surrounding area. So I think it's a good idea to provide good equipment so that they can feel more comfortable with it. One question I do have is that does this follow the same that we do on anything like does it get tendered, or do we have a preference of equipment, or how does that work?
This particular item would be subject to a tendered, open tender process, and that is actually currently underway.
All right. Any other? Councillor Siemens.
Further question through you to administration. What happens to the old truck? How do we deal with a truck that we're retiring? Does it get sold off? Does it get traded in? Is that part of the tender? What happens?
At this point, that is still under consideration. The older fire trucks, their residual value is generally not very high, and it is difficult to place them with other departments. But we are presently searching for an alternative use.
Anything further? Councillor Fair?
Yes, just further to that, Madam Deputy Mayor, I think there's also some very good auction sites that we could use, like government deals, or there's several auction sites, I'm sure that our people are aware of that, where you can post them and get bids, and that way you can, make sure you're going to get the maximum dollar for them, unless you can repurpose them, like you said. So.
All right. Anything in closing? Councillor Funk? Okay. I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to the next one. The McKenzie Avenue Road Reconstruction Project. This project is going to give us concrete pavement and asphalt roadway along McKenzie between Lilac and PTH 12. Swagstra?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Siemens. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. This is a local improvement project that involves replacing 210 meters of asphalt roadway with concrete pavement along McKenzie Avenue, and this is between Lilac Bay and Highway 12. We know that McKenzie Avenue is a very well-used street, so it's not surprising that this type of maintenance would need to take place. And so it's a significant project. A portion of it, $500,000, would need to be borrowed, and that would be over our usual 5-year term. And then the remaining funding comes from a contribution from a benefiting property owner, and then also a portion from the city's capital development reserve. So it's appropriate that we move ahead.
Thank you. Councillor Siemens.
Just to add that, one further comment to that, it's going to be concrete due to the heavy truck traffic with Barkman concrete, so therefore it'll be all concrete as well. So.
Good. Thank you. Anything else? Anything further? All right. I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Carried. All right. We'll go to number 11. Any questions of council? Councillor Funk.
Yes, through you, Madam Deputy Mayor. My question is for administration. According to Bylaw 2025, Section 3.1, number 4, our duties as council is to keep in confidence a matter that is discussed at a meeting close to the public under subsection 152.3, and the committee decides to keep confidential until the matter is discussed at a meeting of council or committee conducted in public. So my question is as follows. When council is in discussion with a group, at what time does the matter become public? At a meeting of the group or organization that has the matter with council, or at a meeting of council? For instance, if council was in a discussion with a particular group and they were meeting before council, and there could be a potential disagreement on council, when would this matter be open for debate?
I think you referred to the city's procedural bylaw with respect to the quote that you were providing. That would have its basis in the Manitoba Municipal Act, which also governs specific rules for the conduct of a council. And specifically, among the many duties that individual council members have, or a council has, there is that particular matter that council has the duty to keep in confidence a matter that is discussed at a meeting closed to the public under that subsection 152 sub 3, and that the committee decides to keep confidential until the matter is discussed at a meeting of the council or of a committee conducted in public. The best general translation that I can provide for that is if there are particular meetings of council that deal with closed matters, those matters are to remain closed until council, as a body, makes the decision to bring the matter into an open meeting. And that is up to the individual or council as a whole to make that decision.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Finn?
Thank you very much.
All right. Any other questions of council? All right, thank you. We'll go to correspondence and petitions. A, Royal Canadian Mounted Police Headway Program Funding, page 29. You've all read your letter. What would council like to do?
At this point, take it as information.
Take it as information? Is there a consensus of council? Yep. Thank you. I'll take it as information. Then we have B, Youth for Christ Steinbach, grant proposal on page 31. Should we take it as information? Thank you. Then we have C, enVision grant request, page 34. Again, take it as information for now. Thank you. We have a few of them here. We have D, Katie Cares grant request. Council, what would you like to do? Thank you. And then we'll go to E, Mennonite Heritage Village grant request. The same? Take it as information for now. Okay, then we'll go to F, Hanover School Division, traffic concern, page 71. Mr. Warkentine, can you give us a little bit of background on this?
Yes. The province of Manitoba passed legislation, I believe it was in early 2014 or possibly even early late 2013, with respect to the ability of local jurisdictions to set specific speed zones for school or speed limits for school zones within municipal jurisdictions on municipal streets. In 2014, I believe it was in fall, City Council passed a bylaw, an amendment to Traffic Bylaw 1350, which actually established a few speed zones within Steinbach. And with 3 schools in particular being impacted. I believe they were the Southwood Elementary School, the Stony Brook Middle School, and the Woodlawn Elementary School in particular. And further to the letter, City Council also dealt with the request of the Hanover School Division, as is noted in the letter, with respect to review and consider the installation of a 4-way stop at the corner of Barkman Avenue and 4th Street. City Council decision at that time was to retain the current 2-way stop along 4th Street, however, to amend the no parking and no stopping zones at that intersection. That's, in brief, the action that City Council has taken with respect to previous requests, and it appears by this letter that there are further follow-up questions that have been listed by the Hanover School Division.
Thank you. Council, you've read the letter. What would you like to do? Councillor Funk?
Thank you, thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. There's actually 3 things there that are in this letter that we're requesting. There's more than just one thing, the speed. They're also, they've asked us to look at a 4-way stop. They've asked us to look at a pedestrian crossing. And these are all very, very good. And when there is a young person that was injured or possibly injured, and there could be chances for more, this is a serious request, and we need to take it seriously. Having said that, I'm not the expert at something like this. So I really would like to refer this to administration and get a report from them so we can make an accurate decision on this and make the proper judgment here in this case.
Mr. Warkentine, do we need a motion for that?
I don't believe so. If that is referred to administration for further study and a report back, that general consensus is sufficient.
Okay. Is there a consensus?
Yep.
Councillor Fair.
Yes, Madam Deputy Mayor, I like, from what I read here, there's one thing that I think I would caution us, I think there are school zone signs already, and I'd be very cautious to reduce the speed from 50 to 30 for the entire day. I don't know if that's what the, I don't know if that would be prudent along that road, but I'm okay with the administration having a look at that. But that's something I think I just want to caution the wind, because I think that's, we don't want to have 30-kilometer zones going through town, because I think that slow traffic down too much.
Okay, anything else? All right, so we'll refer that to administration for review. You can report back at a future council meeting. Thank you. All right, then we'll go to G, Mr. Wade Weeb. We have an email, PTH 52 East paved shoulder request. That's on page 72.
Take his information.
Take as information. Is that a consensus, council?
Yep.
Thank you. Then we have Minister of Municipal Relations, Association of Manitoba Municipalities, Mr. Workentine. Do you want to maybe explain what this is?
I can try. There is a general direction with both the federal and provincial government to have municipalities participate in essentially what's a process of greater accountability. As provided in the letter, under the terms of the federal gas tax funding agreement, Manitoba municipalities must work towards the development and or implementation of asset management plans by March 31st, 2018. That was the initial deadline in order for municipalities to comply. The development of the model and the reporting mechanism from the provincial standpoint has been delayed, and they have modified the request and have provided a template for the City of Steinbach and other municipalities to report particular information with respect to its progress in achieving the development of an asset management program and plan. And the City of Steinbach is aware of that document just recently, and we will be filing that report by the December 15th deadline.
Thank you. This appears to be something that will assist municipalities as they provide services. Then we go to I, Minister of Municipal Relations, Community Places Program application. This is the Schote Park Playground. Any comments? Councillor Swagstra?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. This is good news. This is a grant from the Community Places Program up to $10,557 for the Schote Park Playground renewal. That is a positive thing, and I know that the money will be put to good use in that regard.
Thank you. Anything else? You're fine? Okay, we'll take that as information. And we'll go to 13. Any other business? Seeing none, could I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Fung, second by Councillor Siemens. All those in favor? Thank you.